Greetings, friends, and welcome to episode number 8 of Nostalgia Talk. I'm James, and today I have a very, very exciting guest. If you watched the last video, then you probably heard me tease it, and I'm going to introduce the guest, Bob Bergen. Welcome, Bob.
What's going on, James?
Not much. How's your day?
So far, so good, buddy. How about you?
Very well. I went for a dog walk with my grandfather in the morning, and that was very fun. I enjoy doing that.
Now, where are you?
I am in Nova Scotia on the east coast of Canada.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, I'm way over in LA.
Yeah, west coast for you, west coast
Here
U.S.
we go.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, for the viewers who are not aware, Bob is one of the most popular voice artists in the animation industry. Bob, do you want to give us a taste of what voices you've done?
Oh my goodness. Oh, you're putting me on the spot. Lots of stuff for Warner Brothers. Right now, we're doing Looney Tunes cartoons for HBO Max. I'm doing a show for Netflix called Ridley Jones. Trying to think what I can talk about because there's a lot I can't talk about. I just did another episode of Robot Chicken doing Luke Skywalker.
Oh, nice.
So I've been busy.
Nice. Bob is the voice of Porky Pig, Tweety, Marvin the Martian, Speedy Gonzales, a bunch of characters for Warner Brothers. I have a lot of friends who are into anime, so for you guys out there, he did No Face in Spirited Away. Yeah. Bucky the Squirrel in The Emperor's New Groove, and for any retro lovers out there like me, he was also the Disney Channel voice for a long time. So he was.
I was indeed very good. Probably before you were born.
Probably, yeah. I was born in 1999, so.
And I stopped doing it in 2000. So if you were listening very carefully as a 6-month-old, you might have heard me.
Yeah, I probably heard. And coming up next, Disney Channel in concert with the Backstreet Boys, which I think I watched. I'm a huge Backstreet Boys fan. Yeah. All right, let's get right down into business. So, apart from Looney Tunes and Warner Brothers, because I remember you had said that you had wanted to play Porky Pig ever since you were 5. Apart from Looney Tunes and Warner Brothers, were there any cartoons that you watched as a kid that helped inspire you to want to become a voice actor?
You know, probably all of them. I like everybody working in the business, doing voices for cartoons. I started out as a fan, so I was just a huge fan of everything from the old Max Fleischer Popeye cartoons to Looney Tunes to Speed Racer, Underdog, Bullwinkle. You know, these were considered. I mean, I think 5 or 6 when Scooby-Doo debuted, so I was the perfect demographic for that. So I was just a kid who would wake up before my parents on Saturday morning and pour myself a big bowl of Captain Crunch cereal and sit there in front of the TV for the next 3-4 hours. And, I just took it one step further and made it a career.
Nice. So your first voice role, you said, was on Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. What was your character on that? Because I wasn't able to find it.
It is on YouTube. I found it not so long ago.
Oh.
It's really kind of an interesting character because this was in the early 80s, and he was an alien.
Cool.
I forget the character's name, but he and his sister were flying a spaceship and crashed on Earth, and the Earth's atmosphere interfered with his immune system, and it was killing him. And it was literally the same year that the AIDS epidemic started, and it's like an animated version of an autoimmune deficiency.
God.
And by the time it aired, I remember calling the casting director, and I said, "This kid has AIDS," and she said, "Yeah, we didn't realize that's what it was when we were writing the episode, but I think it's called Spidey Meets a Girl from Tomorrow or something like that."
I'll have to find it. So not too long after that, you were in Little Muppet Monsters, and I'm a huge Muppet nut. Like, I'm obsessed with Muppets, Sesame Street, and really anything that Jim Henson created. And you also did the animated version of Fraggle Rock, and I think when you started in the business, Fraggle Rock was very new. So it wasn't like, it wasn't around the time of a lot of the cartoons that you grew up on. Did you have to watch Fraggle Rock to get prepared to do it?
No, not at all. In fact,
wow.
They asked us not to. No, because we had a lot of the same producers. Jim Henson was the executive producer, but our voice director and our producer-writers, John Semper, Cynthia Freebob,
Right.
The way I played Wembley was very different from the way he was portrayed on the puppet version. The feel for our show was quite a bit different. So I didn't. In fact, I'll tell you a funny story.
Let's hear it.
I had auditioned for every character except for Wembley. and when I went to the callback, the voice director, Stu Rosen, said, "Let me hear your Wembley." And I said, "I can't do that one." And he goes, "Well, let's put it down anyway." And I said, "It's really just kind of out of my wheelhouse." And he said, "Bergen, Henson wants to hear you do Wembley. You want to disappoint him?" I said, "Oh, no, I'll be happy to do Wembley." And I ended up booking Wembley. So there you go. I guess the moral of that story is if they ask you to do something, say sure.
Did you hear that Fraggle Rock is getting rebooted?
It's already on. Yeah, I heard the puppet version, not the animation version. But yeah,
right, yeah.
It's not only been rebooted, but they're actually filming it in the puppeteers' homes because of COVID. It's fascinating.
Right, yeah, they did the Fraggle Rock Rock On little mini-series on Apple TV Plus, and I watched that. Those were really cool.
Yeah, and the technology today with green screen, they can recreate, and they did a lot of green screen for the original show too, or chroma key was probably what they were using back then. But yeah, it's very well done.
Yeah, it is very well done. So eventually, after Fraggle Rock, Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, Little Muppet Monsters, you finally landed the role as the legend himself, Porky Pig.
I did.
So, was your first performance as Porky Pig in Tiny Toons? I feel like it was.
It was indeed, yeah.
Nice.
It was. I mean, I had 1,000,005 auditions, and the first time they booked me was Tiny Toon Adventures, the first season, and I think I did maybe 4 to 6 episodes of that, and then I did some commercials, and then I did some. They had the Warner Brothers store back then, so we did a lot of press and exhibits for that. But Tiny Toons was the first.
Nice. And then eventually you got to perform Tweety. So how did Tweety come into play? Like, how did you get to do Tweety?
Same way. In fact, the same day I did my first Porky Pig, I did Tweety because they were both in the same Tiny Toons episode. So I just auditioned, like all these characters, and the first Porky Pig session also had Tweety. One line for Tweety, but Tweety.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question, because for some reason I thought your first performance of Tweety was in Space Jam. I don't know why, but...
Oh, no, I had done lots and lots of stuff as Tweety way before Space Jam. Early on, I mean, when I first started doing these characters for Warner Brothers, lots of commercials, games, toys, oh my goodness, tons of stuff. In fact, I was doing more Tweety than Porky because
seriously?
They just weren't using Porky that often back in my scene. And until about Space Jam, they weren't using Porky that much at all.
True. Yeah, a lot of my friends, I told my friends that I'm going to be talking to the voice of Tweety on the show, and so many of them went crazy. Like, they were so excited. Do you think Tweety could say a little hello to them?
Well, I'll tell you a little Tweety secret. The voice is sped up electronically.
Okay.
Most of Mel Blanc's voices were sped up, so it may not sound exactly like Tweety when I do it, but give me someone specific to say hi to.
Okay. My friend Kaylee, in particular, was the most excited.
All right.
Oh, Kaylee! Hello, it's Tweety. Kaylee, I love you. You want mail, pretty cat, Kaylee?
As a matter of fact, she is a cat person.
And there we go. Okay.
Yeah. And my two closest friends, Sean and Rachel, they're both crazy cat ladies.
Oh, hello, Sean. Hello, Rachel.
Hey, friends, if anyone is listening. So, I've noticed that from time to time, the voice actors for the characters like Porky, Tweety, Marvin the Martian, a bunch of characters I mentioned in the intro, in different productions, the voice actors change. Like Joe Alasky will do Tweety and some stuff, most specifically Tweety's High Flying Adventure. Or Greg Burson, he'll do, I've heard him do Porky and Tiny Toons. And even recently, Jeff Bergman and Eric Bauza and you have kind of been alternating as Tweety. And Eric's been doing Marvin as well. But you've always been doing Porky. So is that because of auditioning?
Sure, absolutely. It's everything from auditioning to a producer's preference. So the bottom line is we don't own these characters. So
right.
I've had to re-audition for Porky. I just actually recently did.
Oh, really?
For Porky. Yeah, yeah. It's just part of the game. This is, it's sort of like an established character that's owned by a studio. They have the right to audition and or hire anybody they want. So it could be anything from producer's preference to contractual budget and everything in between.
Interesting. So, when you auditioned for Space Jam, how did you feel knowing that you were going to be in a film featuring one of the biggest basketball stars in history? I remember you mentioned to me before that you didn't get to meet, but that's still pretty huge that you got to be in a film featuring someone that famous.
Yeah, and you do the voices separate from the on-camera, so I never got to meet him. I never got to actually physically work with him, even though the Looney Tunes had lots of scenes with him.
Rats.
But I know, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we recorded the film at Warner Brothers on a stage right next to the stage where they built the basketball set.
Oh, cool.
So I tried to sneak in, but they wouldn't let me. And I kept telling people, I tell the guard, I'm Porky Pig in the movie. That didn't work. So
yeah.
Well, I never got to meet him. So, but it was a blast. I had lots and lots and lots of auditions for that too.
Were you a basketball fan before doing the film?
Not in the least.
Okay. Did you have to watch any basketball?
Say again?
Did you have to watch any basketball to kind of get yourself ready for it?
No, not at all.
Good answer.
I'm playing Porky Pig and Tweety and Marvin in a basketball game, so I didn't have to really, learn or know the game. I know the game. It's a pretty easy game to know, but no, didn't have to really watch it.
It would be so cool if because I'm Canadian, it would be so cool if they did like a Looney Tunes film where they like a feature film like they did with Space Jam, where they were all playing hockey.
Well, they talked about it. I gotta tell you, Space Jam came out I think in '96.
Yep.
In '96.
That's correct.
And ever since that movie came out, they were talking about Space Jam 2, Hockey Jam, Baseball Jam, you name the jam. They were talking about doing it, and I didn't even believe there was going to be a Space Jam 2 until it actually went into production, because I'd heard rumors of it for over 20 years, and it never happened. Different producers. I heard Ron Howard was attached at one time.
Oh, wow.
Ben Stiller was attached at one time, and I just I'll know it. I'll believe it when I see it, and it is actually happening. But
right.
I had to wait till they actually had real, honest-to-goodness production rather than just rumors.
Right, yeah. Are you looking forward to Space Jam 2 coming out? I know you can't say much.
Sure, why not?
I didn't really get the chance to see Space Jam in the theater because I was born in 1999. Eventually it was re-released here a few times, like a Saturday matinee. So I would go then. I'd go with my dad and my grandfather. It was like a dream come true. It almost felt like time travel to me.
Well, it was re-released for the 20th anniversary a few years ago, and I went to the theater with some friends. Dee Baker came, and Jocelyn Blue. Dee was Daffy Duck in it, and Jocelyn played one of the Nerdlucks. And it was just a hoot to sit in the theater and watch. I hadn't seen it since it first came out. So.
Oh, seriously?
Oh yeah. In fact, it's so funny, James. I'm in the process of putting together. I just finished putting together a home gym, and I take the old furniture out, and in a drawer today. I'm going to post it on probably Instagram later on. I found the invitation to the cast and crew premiere screening for Space Jam.
From before the movie came out? Like at the time?
Yeah.
Wow.
It was about a month or two before. No, it's about a week or two before the movie came out. So I'm probably going to post that on Instagram later today. Nice.
I'm not on Instagram, but I'll put the link to your Instagram account in the description so that people can see it.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
So, Space Jam was produced by Ivan Reitman, who is honestly such a legend in film. He did Ghostbusters, Stripes, Kindergarten Cop. I'm a film student, so I follow these kinds of people.
Mm-hmm.
So you auditioned for Ivan. Did you feel intimidated because he's such a legend?
I did not feel intimidated at all.
Nervous?
I mean, the guy is a legend. I knew this character better than I know myself, so I didn't feel intimidated by him. I will tell you that there were times when, I mean, I'm a huge fan of the man. I mean, Animal House and Ghostbusters, and just, you know, the guy is a comedic genius.
Oh, yeah.
But I wasn't, to be quite honest, I don't think he understood the classic Looney Tunes as well.
That's
that
fair.
didn't affect the film at all. There were times when I would say Tweety wouldn't say it like that, Porky wouldn't say it like that, and he did, bless his heart, allow all of us to have liberty and say, let me try another take for me. I don't know whether they used it or not, but he directed the voice sessions.
Oh, wow.
I forget the guy's name who directed the on camera. Pitka was his last name.
Joe Pitka, yeah.
But Ivan Reitman, Joe, there we go, thank you. And I only met him at the premiere. I never met him during the production.
Oh, wow.
But Ivan was the one voice directing, and he never called us by name. He never called me Bob. He never called DD. He called me Porky and D Daffy.
That's funny because you did so many other characters in that film. Tweety, Marvin, and he just.
Yeah, well, I guess if I was doing Marvin, he'd call me Marvin, but I don't think he ever knew my real name.
I do have a little surprise, speaking of Space Jam. Besides my shirt, I have with me a pop figure of Marvin as a referee.
Oh, very cool. Is that one of the Funko?
Yes, it is. I have the whole Space Jam collection.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
I did not know they made those. That's very cool.
Yeah. Marvin actually is my favorite character from Looney Tunes.
Oh, you know what? He's one of mine, too. I haven't done him that much. Space Jam was probably the largest project that I got to do him in, but he is a fun character.
Yeah. Isn't that lovely?
Isn't that lovely?
Dream come true right there. So you've also, in addition to Space Jam, you've been in some of the most successful animated films in Hollywood. You've been in Monsters, Inc., Cars, Tangled, Wreck-It Ralph, and my particular favorite, Toy Story 2.
Yeah.
So, and you do a lot of background voices in films like that, and you know, you and a lot of other big-time voice artists like Bill Farmer, D. Bradley Baker, who you just mentioned, Tara Strong,
Sure.
Bunch of others. You know, you do a lot of background voices. Why is it that big-time voice artists like you guys get shoved to the background?
Well, it's a good question, and I wouldn't consider it shoved to the background because there's a couple of reasons. Number one, the studios are going to want major celebrities to voice the lead characters and the supporting characters because Tom Hanks and Tim Allen have more box office draw than a voice actor that the majority of the public don't know. That said, they do their own voice, where those like Tara and myself and Jess Arnell and Debbie Derryberry, we can go and do 20, 30, 40 characters in a single scene. That's what we're trained to do. That's what we enjoy doing. And I don't think any of us feel like second-class voice actors because that's what we're doing. Sure, I'm sure some kind of resent it, but that's their ego talking. They're making great money and they're working on some terrific films. But in my book, I totally understand. You know, sometimes you got to take off your actor hat and put on your producer studio hat. Who's going to possibly bring in more box office? Ellen DeGeneres playing Dora, or I don't know, a generic voice actress. So, you know, it's not about who we are, because other than fans, and by the way, that's a relatively new phenomenon. Since the internet and fan conventions, nobody knew who we were until things like your podcast. Thank you very much, by the way.
Oh, you're very welcome.
And going to you know, the Comic-Cons of the world. That's when people started to know who we were, and that's when we found out, oh my God, people know who we are.
I went to D23. Do you know what that is, the D23 Expo?
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah, I went there in 2015, and I met Bill Farmer, Jim Cummings, Rob Paulson, Jason Marsden. Honestly, I had a blast getting to spend a little bit of time with them for a little bit of that afternoon. That was fun. That was one of the best weekends
Cool.
I ever had.
And really, really, really nice people. You mentioned people that they're friends and they're colleagues and they're terrific.
And since I mentioned a lot of the films that you've been a part of, not too long ago I was watching Monsters University, and I actually identified your voice in it.
You did. I don't even remember what I did in it. What did I do?
So it was in. Have you seen that film since recording it?
No.
Okay.
I'm not. No, I rarely watch the stuff I do.
It's funny. I was just talking to Matt Hill. Do you know who Matt Hill is?
I don't.
He's a voice actor from the west coast of Canada, and he was saying that he was in a show called Ed, Edd n Eddy that was on Cartoon Network.
Right.
And he was saying that he hardly ever watches the stuff he was in as well.
Yeah, I'm just too picky, and I don't have control over the final edit, the final cut, so it just kind of rubs me the wrong way to listen to my work. I mean, when you record cartoons, it could be anywhere from 1 to 5 years before it ever comes out. So
True.
It's literally a day in your life when you record a cartoon. And when you do a feature film, you're only working on the scenes that you're in. You have no idea what the story is. You have no idea what the rest of the characters sound like. So when they put it all together, you're going to watch it as an audience member thinking, oh, I'd have played this differently if I'd known this information. But they don't give you that information. So it just kind of gives me a creepy feeling when I watch my work because I could have done it better. But I can't do it better because I did it years ago.
Understandable. I was in a play when I was 11, and it's so weird for me to watch that for so many reasons. For one thing, I'm older now. I'm now 21 years old. And hearing my voice, my voice was so high back then.
Well, I will tell you that most voice actors, myself included, do not like hearing our own voice. It's just because we sound different to ourselves, And so when you hear yourself talking in your own head, then you hear yourself talking in a video, you're like, oh my God, is that what people hear when I talk? And it makes you feel weird. Are you an actor, by the way?
I've acted. I like to write a lot more than I like to perform.
Oh, cool. Good for you, man. So write me a cartoon.
I'd love to. One of the things I'd love to write for once I get out of film school is, in fact, Looney Tunes.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you gotta promise to hire me.
You got it. But to answer your question to answer your question about Monsters University, for any of the listeners who have seen that film, it was the scene where Mike and Sully basically sneak into the door station and unauthorized, and the door is locked down, and then they basically have to scare their way out of it. So the door explodes, and then the CDA come in. You were one of the CDA guys.
Was that like the orange decontamination people?
The ones that looked like they were wearing hazmat suits?
Yeah.
Yes!
Oh, I still remember that now. Thank you.
Yeah, I think the line was, we have a 2319 in progress or something.
Okay, wow. I don't, what year was that movie?
2013.
Holy cow. So we were probably recorded that a year or two before, maybe longer. So we're talking 10 to 13 years ago, I think. No.
Very welcome.
Holy cow, that was a while ago. But I'm getting a flashback now. Wow, thank you.
Do you remember any other background lines you recorded in movies, like some of the ones that I've mentioned, or do they just kind of fade in your memory?
They fade in my memory. I mean, I can remember I think, was it Finding Nemo, where there were a bunch of birds going, mine, mine,
Yes.
mine? Yeah, I remember that.
Were you one of the birds?
Yeah, a whole bunch of us were. A bunch of voice actors and things of Pixar producers. It was a whole bunch of us.
Right.
But again, you do something and you forget it.
Right.
It's just. There were some characters that evolve a little bit beyond the 1 or 2 days in the film. Emperor's New Groove is like that because I played a little squirrel, where I just,
Right.
I did one joke one day, and when they tested the movie, he got real positive comments. So they wrote more stuff, and they had me coming back. I think I came back 2 or 3 times. And then they did a straight-to-video sequel called Kronk's New Groove, and then we did a series called The Emperor's New School.
I grew up with that show.
The squirrel was in... Oh, there you go. But that, going back to what you said about doing background stuff, you never know when background stuff is going to be something a little bit more substantial. And that grew and grew.
So when you do a movie like Monsters, Inc., Tangled, Cars, Wreck-It Ralph, Toy Story 2, Finding Nemo, which you just mentioned, those, as you said before, those films have, big celebrities in them, like Tim Allen, Tom Hanks, John Goodman, Mandy Moore, who I love, John C. Reilly, Owen Wilson. So how do you feel knowing that you're in a film starring a huge celebrity?
Oh, that's an interesting question, and I hope this doesn't disappoint, this answer, but I don't think about it.
Okay, that's a good answer.
Well, I mean, it's very rare for me to get starstruck. Trying to think I got starstruck. I don't know if you know. Do you know the name Chuck Jones?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, I got starstruck when one of my last callbacks for Porky was for Chuck Jones, and that was kind of cool. But for the most part, I'm on the board of governors at the Television Academy representing actors, and I meet every year all the Emmy nominees, and it really doesn't. The only time it really kind of affects me is when they're jerks.
Oh.
Which doesn't happen often, but when you meet an actor that you admire their work and you find out, oh, they're kind of rude to the waiter, or the serving staff, or just not nice people, it doesn't happen often.
Mm-hmm.
It's happened. I can count on less than one hand the times where I've worked with somebody, or and most of the time when I work with them or meet them or know them, like for instance, Mark Hamill, nicest guy on the planet. I mean, just so darn down to earth and sweet. Most of the people I work with are just the people you want them to be. And I did an episode, we did a show called Duck Dodgers years ago, and Quentin Tarantino did a guest shot on it, and
cool.
He came in, I know, right? He came in wearing a Fred Flintstone t-shirt, because he was so excited to be working on a Warner Brothers, and he came over and he hugs me and he hugs Joe, and he's like, oh my God, I'm working with Porky Pig and Daffy Duck. And I said to him, you do know you're Quentin Tarantino, right? I mean, you did this little movie called Pulp Fiction. It was kind of successful. And then I got to meet him last year during Oscar season, because I'm a member of the Motion Picture Academy, and he hosted a party for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So I got to go there, and he didn't remember me, but he remembered doing Duck Dodgers. But I was like, met you, Porky Pig, how are you?
Wow. What did he say?
You know what? There were hundreds of people there, and he had to play host to everybody, so we got a millisecond together sitting at the bar. But, he was trying to get Oscar votes, so he was in a very different element. But, the guy is just so much fun to do a cartoon with, because he was like a little fanboy, excited to be playing with Porky Pig and Daffy Duck.
Nice. Can I tell you a little story?
Sure.
This is something I've talked about on the podcast before, but a couple years ago I was on a show filmed here in Nova Scotia called Mr. D. I was a background extra on 2 episodes of that. It was the last 2 episodes of the final season, and I got to share the screen a few times with the star Jerry D.
Oh yeah?
And right when we finished the very last shot, I was playing a graduate student, and he was taking pictures with a lot of grad students. I was about ready to leave, and I said, "Can I just bug you for just a quick picture?" He was so, to me at least, he was very nice about it. And his brother-in-law was my high school gym teacher.
Oh, no kidding! Very cool.
Hi, Mr. McPhee, if you are listening to this.
There you go. Well, I got to tell you, when you do work with people, celebrities, and they end up being nice and cordial, that's what everybody should be. There's no reason to not be nice.
Do you know who Ellen Page is?
I know the actress, sure.
Yeah, she was born and raised here in Nova Scotia, and last year my friends from school and I went to the Atlantic Film Festival, and she had a film in the festival, and so we go into the theater and Ellen Page sits in our row.
Oh, no kidding.
So I looked at my friends and I was like, guys, watch my stuff. So I went over and took a picture with Ellen Page, and I knew her mother from a mutual friendship. She was right there.
Well, she started as a child actress, didn't she?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, very cool.
Yeah. So, would it be okay if I had a quick chat with Bucky the Squirrel?
Sure.
Okay.
I don't know if you'll understand what he's saying, but you know, he's like that, sure. So yeah, absolutely.
I've watched Emperor's New Groove. I think I can translate from listening to Kronk.
Okay, well I'll go get him.
Okay. Squeak, 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 squeak. Hello. I'm gonna ask him how was your day. Squeak, 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 and squeak. Oh wow. So squeak, squeak, squeak. That's really cool. Bob, are you still there?
Oh yeah, I'm here.
Bucky was telling me that today he went to the mall and a whole bunch of people saw that there was a squirrel in the mall, and rather than calling security, they actually admired the fact that there was a squirrel in the mall.
And what was really cool was that he was wearing a mask.
Right, yeah. Because here we are living in this crazy, crazy world.
That's right.
Yeah. So that wraps up the Q&A. I'm now going to go into fan questions. For the first time since episode number 2, people have actually sent me fan questions.
Oh, cool.
This first one comes from one of my very good friends from high school, Bronwyn Heighton. Hey, Bronwyn. And she wants to know, which character do you relate the most to in your career?
Ooh, I don't think I relate to any of them, but I probably feel more comfortable doing Porky Pig than I do myself, because I just know the character better than I know myself. It's, you know, being authentic to yourself as an actor is a very difficult thing, but being able to slip into the skin, or rather pig skin, of a character is, at least for me, a little bit more creatively satisfying. So definitely Porky Pig.
Okay. This one comes from a friend of mine that I used to go to college with. His name is Brian Dowie. And Brian is asking, how do you develop a voice for a character, and what kind of considerations do you make? I assume that's for characters like Bucky and No Face, because they were original characters, because Porky, Tweety, Speedy Gonzales, they were created by someone else, Mel Blanc. So when
I would even put No Face aside because it's anime and it's dubbed.
True.
I'm influenced by the picture. I'm influenced by the original actor's performance. But if it's something that's brand new, an original character that I'm auditioning for, you'll get a picture of the character, you'll get a description, and you'll get a script. And based on all that information, you have to create. It's not about the voice. The voice is actually a very small part of it. You have to create the entire character, the personality of the character. You have to take into consideration what's happening in the scene, who their scene partners are, how they relate to their scene partners, the relationship with their scene partners, the environment that they're in. So if you have an audition that might be 5 or 6 different lines, you have to decide, where are you? If you're in a high school library, you're going to have a different approach, a different energy, a different intent. If the next scene you're in a pep squad football team, lots of people in the background in your imagination, you have to use your imagination. You have to think about the scene, not just the voice. You're not just reading in a funny voice. So it's literally bringing the character to life, bringing the story to life, bringing the essence of the personality off the page. It's a lot of work, and your audition has to sound as classic as a classic character does.
So you do get the chance to look at the characters before you create a voice.
Kinda. It depends.
Okay.
It depends. Sometimes for an animated feature, probably no picture.
Okay.
For a series, you'll probably have a picture. But the picture is helpful because, one of the things I teach my voiceover students is if you physically play the character, the voice will follow. So you look at the facial expression. You look at if they have an underbite, you'll extend your jaw to give yourself an underbite that might change the sound of the character. If the character talks out of the side of their face, if I talk out of the side of my face right now, it kind of changes, takes me out of the equation a little bit. If it says that the character is from the East Coast, is from New York or New Jersey, talk out of the side of my face, and
next one of a New Jersey, sort of the next, and a dialogue right here. If it says that the character, let's say he's a little bit of an older character, so you age the voice a little bit. Perhaps he smokes, so you add a little bit of a smoker's cough or a smoker's voice to him.
Jeez.
So there's all kinds of layers that you do to create the character, and it takes a lot of thought. It takes a lot of imagination. 80% of creating a character is in the imagination because you've got to make stuff up that isn't necessarily on the script.
Right.
They might say that he works in a factory. Well, what kind of factory? Large factory? Is he the boss? Is he just a day worker? So you have to fill in lots of blanks within the script to make the character come to life.
Right. So I take it for like when you do background voices in a lot of the films that I was talking about earlier, it's kind of like that. Like they just tell you what kind of character it is, even though it's just kind of not major.
Well, when you do the background stuff, it is major. You still have to, no matter how small the character is, no matter how tiny the moment in the scene, you still have to be as specific with your choices. So sometimes you come in very, very, very early on, and there's no picture, and then most of the time you're playing to the picture.
Right.
So there is no consistency. There's no formula. It's whatever they have for you that day. Sometimes you'll come into the film. I worked on this movie Onward for Pixar.
That was a great
I
film.
did a couple of days, and I have not seen it. But we didn't work to picture. We went in, and there were about, I don't know, a dozen actors, and we would go in one at a time, and we actually had scripted lines that we were reading. Did some of it take place like in a biker bar?
Yeah, pretty much. A lot of basically the whole film took place in like this mythical land, but a biker bar was there. Yes, were you in that scene?
Okay, I remember bits and pieces of a biker bar, and again, I don't remember the specifics, but you go in there, and let's say that the line is something like, "Hey waitress, I need a drink," and they might have you go, "Hey waitress, I need a drink." And the director will say, "No, she's further away, and it's really loud in there." "Hey waitress, I need a drink." And then, let's do it this time. Pretend like she's right next to you. "Hey waitress, I could use a drink." Mm-hmm. So you just keep playing with it, taking their direction, throwing out ideas, and you have no idea what they keep or if you're even in it when it's completed.
This question comes from a friend of mine in my class named Matthew Jewell. He's a big fan of the Looney Tunes show, and so am I. And that show really was more of a sitcom. So when you were
it was, yeah.
And for the role of Tweety, I think Jeff Bergman was doing Tweety in that, and you were doing Porky. So when you were doing Porky on Looney Tunes show, do you have a different approach to voicing Porky?
You basically just take the director's cue.
Okay.
So you've got the script, and you've got the producers and the directors, and everything we do has a different flavor. But if you look at the classic Looney Tunes, a Chuck Jones Porky is going to be different from a Friz Freleng Porky, which will be different from a Bob Clampett Porky. Same with everything we do. We've got different creatives who kind of they try to keep the integrity of the character, but put their own stamp on it. But Looney Tunes show was quite different.
Oh yeah.
You're right. It was without a doubt a sitcom.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I want to write for sitcoms, but mostly live action sitcoms with a laugh track. But you know, an animation sitcom is pretty cool. Do you watch The Simpsons?
I don't know if I've ever seen an entire episode of The Simpsons.
Okay, yeah, I never considered that much of a sitcom because I always thought that sitcoms had a laugh track. Like in the original Scooby-Doo stuff, for example.
Actually, sitcoms haven't had a laugh track for years.
Yeah, there are a few that.
No, well, they don't have laugh tracks. They have a live audience.
So some of them have a laugh track. Some of them do have a live audience. A lot of the sitcoms that inspired me kind of had a bit of both.
So what sitcoms can you remember that had laugh tracks?
Muppet Show was one.
Oh, yeah, but we're talking 1970 something.
Oh, okay. Well, a lot of the sitcoms that inspired me are like from when I was a teenager. So stuff on Disney Channel and Nickelodeon.
Yeah. Today, laugh tracks are not considered. The producers don't like them. They don't want to tell like Modern Family, contemporary sitcoms. They don't want to tell you when to laugh. But then they have shows like like Big Bang Theory, which are shot before a live audience, like a play. So they do have that audience interaction. And as an actor, I love having the audience laugh and interact because it just feeds your performance.
Have you ever been in the audience of the taping of a sitcom before?
Mm-hmm. Lots of times,
Okay.
and I've done on-camera work in sitcoms, so it's the closest thing television has to doing a play.
Nice. And speaking of on-camera work, you were the host of the kids' version of Jeopardy, Jep, and the reason I'm bringing that up is because we just lost Alex Trebek a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
A fellow Canadian, by the way.
That's very true.
Yeah. I saw a very nice picture on Twitter of you and Alex, and I retweeted it to my feed because it was just so nice. What did you think of Alex?
Didn't know him well. That picture was taken about a year and a half ago at last year's Daytime Emmy Awards.
Okay.
I met him actually twice. The first time I met him was when I was hosting Jep. He came to one of the tapings.
Okay.
And then I met him last year at the Daytime Emmy. The guy was probably the best of the best when it comes to hosting. He was genuine. He was likable. He was smart. He had a tremendously dry sense of humor. And he was, just a champ towards the end of his life to keep working as long as he did and not give up.
Yeah, I noticed that. He really was a champ, I find. So, another question from Matthew, and it's funny because this is something you and I were talking about as we were setting up for this show. What is one question you never get tired of hearing?
Oh my goodness! The better question would be what question do you get tired of hearing? I don't know the one question I don't get tired of hearing, but I will tell you this. Because we do 1.5 billion of these interviews and podcasts all the time.
Mm-hmm.
The people that ask questions I've not answered before, that's what I don't get tired of. That's exciting. Because, people who are fans of what we do, they listen to every podcast, every interview, they read every interview, and if it's redundant, they get bored because they've heard it before. But those who, like for instance, I've never had an interviewer asked to have a conversation with Bucky. That was fun. That was really, really, and you're a good improvisational actor. So that
Thank
was
you.
really, really a hoot.
It's funny you mentioned that because I'm doing improv courses at Neptune Theater in Halifax at the moment.
Oh, very cool. I love improv.
Nice. I just had Patrick Bristow on the show, who's a member of the Groundlings.
I love Patrick. Patrick is great.
Hi, Patrick, if you are listening.
You better be listening, buddy.
So, Bob, thank you again so much for agreeing to be on the show. And for the viewers, Bob was actually the first person that that agreed to be on the show. And, he's been very busy, which I understand. He's been doing Looney Tunes cartoons, which are now on HBO Max. If we don't have that here in Canada. But if anyone's interested, they're on Teletoon in Canada. I've been watching them. They're hilarious. So, Bob, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy, busy schedule to agree to be on the show.
Oh, my pleasure, buddy.
And also, I know that you're Jewish, so a quick little Happy Hanukkah as a way to wrap up.
Oh, thank you. It is coming up. Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, and Happy Thanksgiving. I know that you don't do that one.
We do, but we have it in October.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay. And do you do turkey and everything like we do?
My sister's vegetarian, so most of the family does.
Okay, all right. Well, there you go.
And also for Speedy Gonzales, Merry Christmas, Speedy, or as they say in your country, Fleave an Eggnog!
Feliz Eggnog to you too.
And normally, to end the show, I would say peace out, but Porky Pig, if you are there, you want to close us out?
Yeah,